Hey, good afternoon. Scott Luton, Greg White with you right here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's show. Gregory, how are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, Scott. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Had a wonderful start to the day with the
Yeah,
team. And really enjoyed a catch-up meeting this morning. But these quarterly live streams that we're diving into today, we've gotten a ton of feedback around these, right?
yeah. Do you think Bobby misses us as much as we miss him between these quarterly meetings?
I don't know, but we're,
I have been dying for this one, right? I mean, seriously, what we've seen in the last quarter made me hearken back to a year and a half or so ago when we started these things, and just who could have predicted what we're about to talk about? It is compelling.
right. Well,
Um,
we know Bobby couldn't predict it. That is off limits.
because that's right. That
That's right.
he cannot make forward looking statements because he is a member of US Bank.
That is right. But the insights and what the
Yeah,
data is telling us today, ton of value there for business leaders, supply chain leaders, you name it. And so on this episode, Greg, as you're alluding to, we're going to be sharing key insights from one of the leading transportation industry resources, the U.S. Bank Freight Payment Index for
right.
Q2 2021. We blink, Greg, and we're now in Q3. So we're looking back at the last 3 months that make up Q2.
Somehow it feels like this year went faster than last year,
No
and,
kidding.
and almost like last year didn't exist. I keep saying this happened last year when it happened year before last, kind of things, right?
Well, I'm game if we want to blot 2020 out from our
Yes,
collective
you can call it
memories.
the year that never was,
That's
Scott
right.
Lee.
But hey,
Yeah,
today, so we're going to dive into the U.S. Bank Freight Payment Index Q2 2021. We're going to have two business leaders. We've mentioned one already.
yeah,
Backed by popular demand, Bobby Holland is joining us from U.S. Bank. We also have John Janson with SanMar, so stay tuned. They've got a ton of experience in transportation markets, and I love the mix of the data-driven but also the practical, been there, done that mix of perspective that we have right here. But Greg, talk to just about the wherewithal behind what U.S. Bank does and where all this information comes from.
well, I mean, US Bank processes a ton, more than a ton, billions of dollars in freight transactions, right? $31.4 billion worth of transactions in 2020. And I can only imagine what that number is going to be this year with freight rates being what they are, and even not just spend, but also shipments being up significantly this year as well. So, they've got their finger on the pulse of what's going on in freight. Ground transportation is what we're specifically talking about here, because they fund and process a ton of these transactions.
That's right.
So Bobby's organization, well, we'll let him tell us, but that's what Bobby's organization does, is they compile all this data and tell us what it means and what it's meant. And then, of course, our guests from industry always help us translate it from the data into what's happening on the ground for companies that are dealing with freight every single day.
A perfect mix to increase your supply chain IQ. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Greg, let's say hello to a few folks, and then we're gonna swoosh Bobby and John into the stream, and we're gonna get started. I want to say a big thanks to Amanda and Jada and Allie and Clay behind the scenes helping to make the production happen. So hello to each of y'all. Srinivas tuned in once again from India. Srinivas, how are you doing? Give us an update. Drop the team a line. Let us know how you and your family are doing. Great to have you back here with us today. Adil from Dubai. Gosh, Dubai, Greg, the innovative things taking place in Dubai is just, it
It's
knocks your
incredible.
socks off.
It really is. And, it's kind of the hub of that area of the world. So much incredible stuff happening, a beautiful place. And fortunately, one of the few places on the planet that's hotter than Atlanta right now. So we actually can have some empathy for them.
That's right. Adil, let us know, how hot is it in Dubai right now? But most importantly, great to have you here tuned in via LinkedIn. Thanks so
Yeah.
much. Mohammed is also with us via LinkedIn from India. Tell us what part of the country there in India you're tuned in from, Mohammed. Let's see here. Syed is back with us from Iran. Great to have you here via LinkedIn. Look forward to your perspective today. Hey,
We won't tell
Sushil.
anybody you're listening.
Sushil is back with us. I think he had joined us for a couple of live streams in the last few weeks
Yeah.
Via LinkedIn. Great to see you here. And Sushil, tell us what part of the world you're tuned in from as well. Rashid is with us from Nigeria. Great to have you on LinkedIn. I mentioned Clay
in Nigeria.
What's that, Greg?
I said a lot happening in the logistics world, in supply chain in Nigeria, right?
Agreed. You know, I was able to catch up this morning with our dear friend Jenny Froome, who leads SAPIX, and of course she's always a bundle of informed positivity. But there's a lot happening across the continent there. Brandy is back with us. Brandy, great to see you. You're part of the UJ live stream yesterday. Great to see you back here today. And Greg, Brandy has a new consulting gig, so she's going to be celebrating, I think, this weekend.
Not too hard. You got to get to work. You got to get on that plane on Monday.
That's right.
I'm sure.
Get those results.
That's right.
Adil says it's too hot to handle in Dubai. It's above 40 degrees Celsius.
I'm trying to figure that out.
And then finally, and welcome to everybody. I know we couldn't hit everybody, but Salahuddin is tuned in from Bangladesh via LinkedIn. Great to have you here today. Look forward to your POV. Okay, so Greg, are we ready to bring our guests into the stream?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 104, by the way, in Dubai, in case you were wondering.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I wasn't ready right at that moment, so I just kind of hesitated a little bit to let you know that now we are officially ready.
I saw the gears doing that hard math, that conversion math, Greg. Let me check one other thing here. Oh, okay, yeah. I see we got some math behind the scenes too, so thanks for that, dog, Clay Phillips. All right, so with no further
Did we come out with the same number?
Yes.
Okay, so he said over 40, so it's over 104 there.
Yes.
But it's a dry heat.
It is a dry heat, but you know I like how Clay's got you back and is double checking your math.
Yeah,
Greg.
Yeah,
that's
well,
important.
I think everybody here knows you shouldn't trust my math.
Hey, you know, before we bring on our guest, I think this is Korai Koze. Y'all let me know if it's not. But he's, you know, so Korai's with Gartner. He's been on the show before. Really sharp individual, but he is getting the word out on what they're seeing there in Germany, and it's helping power relief efforts, which is really important for the flood victims, which I think this is the worst they've ever seen it. So Korai, thank you for what you do. Let's drop the link in the comments, and let's, as a former community and global society, let's help give that some uplift there. So Korai, hope we can move the needle there.
Yeah.
All right. So with no further ado, Greg, I want to introduce our two featured guests here today. Of course, backed by popular demand, we have Bobby Holland, Director of Freight Data Solutions with U.S. Bank, and he's joined today by John Janson, Senior Director, Global Logistics with SanMar. Hey, good afternoon, Bobby. How you doing?
Doing well. Good morning, gentlemen.
Great to have you back.
Good day.
That's right. It's been a full day already. And
yeah,
John,
I guess this afternoon.
Great to have you as well.
Good morning, guys. And not to compete with Dubai, but the weather in Boise, Idaho has been like 100 plus for 13 days in a row. So, it's a dry heat, though.
Right. So is hell, and nobody wants to live there. So, but that's unprecedented. I think the amount of heat that you've had for the amount of time that you've had there. Right. It's tough in the Northwest.
Agreed. And a quick shout out, Samuel and Daria. Great to see y'all both here via LinkedIn. Okay.
Do you think Bobby can answer my question now?
Well, let's
Bobby,
see.
do you miss us as much as we miss you between these quarterly meetings?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Makes me feel good to hear you say that. Thank you.
2 thumbs up too from Bobby Holland. That's worth the price of admission here today. But Bobby, it's great to have you back. We've really enjoyed. I think this is our 6th or 7th live stream together, chock full of data-driven insights that the global business community can learn a lot from, especially here across the country with the national freight market. But let's, for the handful of folks that may have forgotten what they know about Bobby Holland, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I come from a technology background, mainly in software engineering and architecture. And I've been with the bank for about 5 years as a product manager, a technical product manager. Freight data solutions. We provide data-related products from our freight audit and payment transaction processing, as Greg White pointed out earlier on in the broadcast.
$31.4 billion in 2020. And a ton, transaction numbers are big, but all the data behind that is even more massive. So I appreciate how y'all share that to better inform all of us. And of course, you're joined by John Janson, our new friend from SanMar. John, I've got a particular question I want to ask you about, but before we get there, tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, again, I work for SanMar, and a lot of folks have not heard of SanMar. We're the nation's largest wholesale distributor of apparel that is sold into the decorated marketplace. So we bring in the blank canvas, and it then becomes the uniform that your employees wear. It becomes the T-shirt you got at a fun run, your team's uniforms. So our product is, very much spread across the United States. We manufacture that product in 22 countries around the world and bring it all into the United States and distribute it across the U.S. with 8 distribution centers. So, again, a pretty complex network, but one that we're glad to see people coming back to work and events starting to happen, because that's what our business is all about. I've been in the logistics world for almost 30 years, and I've been at SanMar for 5. So excited to be here today.
Love that. And a lot of what you're alluding to are reflected in the second quarter numbers that we're going to walk through. Some that had a big impact. But Greg, so John, Greg and I are big sports fans. Many of our team members are big sports fans. And a little birdie told me that you played football at an iconic school here in the States. So tell us more.
I had the great chance to attend Boise State University back when we were a Division I AA school, and the field was green and easier to watch probably on everybody's television.
Right.
But, so it's a different university now than it was back when I went there, and so but pretty proud of the Boise State heritage.
Love that, Greg.
Are you from Boise originally, John? You're still there, correct?
Still here, yeah. Actually, one of the very few natives, second generation. Now everybody, I think all of my neighbors are all from Seattle or California that have moved into the state, but happened to be a native and just had the chance to work for some pretty good corporations here in electronics and pharma, and now with SanMar. So it's given me the opportunity to travel the globe and be in the world of logistics.
So you guys at SanMar, you provide swag basically. So does Boise State get a discount because you're an alumnus?
No, but we've been trying to get more of the product into the bookstore, and so that we're getting more of it out there. So royal blue is a really good color. So it goes deep.
Love that. So many more things we could talk about Boise. I think our dear friend Mike Griswold is up in that neck of the woods that joins us each month. But nevertheless, so Greg, where are we going next for this next little segment?
Well, so we've talked about the volume of data and the volume of transactions that U.S. Bank moves here. I have a couple questions, so I'm going to go off script on one question because I've been curious about this for months, and I keep forgetting to ask you, Bobby. But can you share a little bit about how you put together the index, and also aside from the credibility of $31 billion worth of transactions, what kind of rigor do you go through to put all this together?
Well, the index is a chain-based index, which means we compare, quarter to quarter, previous quarter. The first quarter start point was 2010, and that's our base point of 100. And from there, we apply calculations to our data to basically shape it so that every comparison is an apples to apples comparison, as opposed to, we reduce seasonality or eliminate seasonality. We eliminate it's similar to a store to store sales comparison.
Yeah, like comp store sales for a retailer, right?
Right. So that because we want it to be a statistical reflection of our view of the market at large. We don't want it to be, a strict measurement of U.S. Bank's business. We may be doing better than market, and we don't want to artificially skew that. So we balance out each quarter, making sure that its comparison has the same companies, the same transaction levels, and everything, so that it can accurately represent the economy. That's why it's chain based as well. We decided that this was a better method than basically reflecting the index off of year zero. We do it off the previous quarter.
That's really important because, a lot of us, of course, we get to hear unemployment numbers and whatnot from the government, and they have to give us both the total number and then they give us deseasonalized numbers. You just do the deseasonalization and take out all of the other effects to give us apples to apples comparison quarter to quarter, right?
Correct.
Cool. So this is you probably thought that was my off the script question, but I'm curious because you are also director of consulting services. I don't think we've ever asked what all you all do aside from the freight payment index. So your division, can you give us an idea of kind of some of the services you provide?
Well, the group that I work in, we're a group of product managers, and some of our products span from quick payment type products to the main product obviously our freight item payment system, which provides the ability to manage the transactions between shippers and carriers and enable those transactions to proceed. Shippers can buy or can order services from carriers, and carriers can buy those or sell those services and invoice the shippers. And we make sure that the payment process is quick and painless, easy and accurate. Again, the audit piece of the freight audit and payment. And then there's offshoot functions from that. There's settlement. There's we have, like I said, frictionless payment opportunities. And then my group is, like I said, we're a different product in that we take that data from all of this interchange, and then we use it to do such things like benchmarking. We can take your data as a customer and normalize it, create some metrics, and then we can take a peer group of similar shippers and compare your data and your metrics to theirs. Again, the peer group is entirely normalized. No, you can't determine who exactly you're being compared to.
Anonymize all the peers, right?
Right, other than by just general characteristics, because again, we want to make sure that the comparisons are similar, both in terms of size of company, industry, and also just mode mix is another aspect. And then we can compare so that you can see how you relate, how your business and these key metrics that we've developed compares to those of your peer group. And we can even, in some of the comparisons, or even with the industry, our network of companies, and compare your data to there. So then you can see, okay, we're in these particular lanes, we're paying way more than our peers are, or in this lane, we're not. We're saving way more than they are. Keep doing the things that we're doing right, but also maybe have some visibility into the things that maybe we can improve. And then that takes us to the consulting services, where we can create custom analysis and custom analytics based on those factors that you want more visibility into. So that's kind of how it starts. Freight payment index is like the national view. Then you go more granular down into the benchmarking, and then you can go the next level down with the consulting services to see those individual points and try to figure out, where you can fix it, where you can move the needle back in a direction that you prefer.
That's really cool. So SanMar could have, and maybe you do, John, I don't know, but they could have their own index to say, hey, we're paying more than Land's End in whatever, right? Or maybe you guys...
They won't know it's Land's End, that they're paying more than similar companies.
Yeah, sorry, right, because you anonymize that. They don't know who it is. They just know they're paying the highest, right? Or Correct. Second highest or whatever. That's Correct. Interesting. That seems particularly valuable these days. And Scott, from our buddy Nerfod's post today, and his, what was it, $9,000 quote for a 900-mile shipment or something like that. I would think that kind of knowledge would be really, really valuable to help companies really improve really fast.
Right.
In this volatile, and as we're about to see, skyrocketing, right, spend market.
That's right.
No, I mean, being able to have that and have it as a reference point when you're going in and talking to the senior executives at the C level, and you're talking about budget and budget hits, budget miss, and being able to quantify how you compare. Are you doing better than others? And a critical tool.
So you use that? You use a custom view, John?
We've kind of put together a combination of some of the analytics that come together, and certainly the freight payment index is part of that. And then we're putting that together to try to judge how do we compare, and are we doing better than the market, greater than the market? And I mean, right now it's turned from almost a what we pay to how much capacity can we get type of a model.
Yeah, because one of the things I did mention was one of our other ancillary products. We have a business intelligence platform, and I believe SanMar uses that data. It enables them to pull reports on various aspects of the business. We also have a series of dashboards that show data at a glance.
Absolutely.
And so we provide as much information to our customers to add value as possible. And our business intelligence platform is one that's highly used.
That's powerful stuff. Scott, I can't believe I waited a year and a half to ask that. I mean, okay. I think we all kind of assumed it was something like that, but I think that's really powerful stuff and particularly valuable, as I said right now. So maybe we ought to get into the numbers so people can see why I'm so shocked.
Agreed. You're reading my mind, Gregory. Yeah. You're reading my mind. And the good news here is that the freight payment index that we're going to show here, a couple of visuals, hey, it's free to sign up. And we'll tell you how to do that here momentarily. And Amanda and team, if we could, well, she's already beat me to it. So the link is already in the comments to sign up for the freight payment index. Okay. So Bobby, I want to start with a little more level table setting as we dive deeper into what the Q2 numbers are telling us. So first, from a national point of view, give us some highlights of what the data is singing to us.
Okay, so from a national perspective, as we can see, the shipments index was up 4.4% over Q1. The spend index was up 10.1% in Q2. Some of the main drivers that we've seen, is that the economy is gaining momentum as companies are emerging and industries are emerging from the pandemic. We see retail sales, imports, construction, and manufacturing output are increasing, and that's driving shipments and downstream the spend as well. The spend is being affected, and why it's rising, or what appears to be rising faster than the shipment volumes are, we believe is because of tight capacity, both in terms of getting more drivers on in the seats and getting more trucks on the road. And because of that, shippers are having to pay more to move their goods, and we see that this could continue if as things continue to
what Bobby's about to say is not a forward-looking statement, because that's not his thing. But
let me help him out. They're going to continue.
There we go. John can make forward-looking statements, as can we, right? But I think you're right, John.
If things continue on the trajectory, we should, barring some catastrophes, things should continue to move forward, and that's what we're seeing. And ideally, as time goes on, some of these pressures on the market can be resolved, and the capacity can open up even further, so that costs can kind of adjust more. But again, we can only go by what we see in the data, and right now the data just says that it's on an upward trajectory, which is good. That's what we've been talking about for the last several quarters as we've gone through the pandemic, and are now seeing things open up and stay open, and not threaten to go back, and which causes blips and jumps. But right now things are moving upward.
Right. So I want to share. So that's kind of a very high level national breakdown. We're about to go through region by region and give some a little more detailed insights there. I want to welcome, Peter Boley. You just about missed it, but great to have you here today. And we'd welcome your perspective. And Asley is with us. So hello, Asley. Great to have you here today. She asked a great question that certainly is reflected in some of the narrative around the numbers. And she says, hey, driver shortage, marketing, incentive programs, how are they affecting this? Driver supply certainly has been a long time running challenge. John, you're nodding your head. Any perspective to share there?
Well, I mean, we're seeing it at a couple of areas. When you're looking at it starts at the very beginning with the dray drivers, the guys that are going to the port and picking it up. And with the current port congestion, if a driver can't go in and get more than 2 or 3 turns a day, they could stay home currently with some of the current federal funds going to them, and they don't have to drive. They can make their truck payment without having to put the truck on the road. And then once it's hit there, you're just working across the country, whether it be LTL or the truckload marketplace. They're all really struggling to put drivers in, and the driver is king. I mean, he's determining where he wants to go, what loads he wants to handle, and it's put tremendous pressure on the industry. Agreed.
A couple quick shout outs. Aaron Peterson, great to have you here. Aaron is a graduate of the supply chain program at Morgan State University, and I think he joined McCormick not too long ago. I think. And Aaron, I apologize if I got that wrong.
So Nestle and McCormick recruiting out of Morgan State, right?
That's right. That is right. And we mentioned Dubai. Kim Winter, a titan there in the Middle East, in Dubai. Great to have you here with us, Kim.
And we've seen no shade on his patio.
That's right.
He is indoors right now, I guarantee it.
That is right. Well,
wait, it's night there, isn't it?
So what we want to do now is we want to go kind of region by region, and we want to make this very conversational, Greg and John and Bobby. We're going to lead with Bobby, and I'm going to pose each region to him. You'll see folks are listening or tuned in via the stream. You see the regions there. We've got 5 of them that they report, and the research kind of breaks things out into. And we're just going to pose each of these to Bobby, and then Greg and John, y'all weigh in if there's something that you saw in the data per region that you can add to the conversation. So, yeah. Bobby, let's start with the Northeast region. So, give us some highlights there.
Okay, well, the Northeast region in shipments rose about 1.5%. It was the third sequential gain. It was off, as we can see from the heat map, that it was down. It was one of the regions that was down a bit year over year. But because it has a dense population, goods consumption is helping to keep the freight levels up. Our economist expects that growth may slow in this region as greater numbers of people get back to going to sporting events, basically shifting the usage pattern, if you will, and which affects the trucking industry. They're shifting from retail shopping and restaurants and things that are more truck intensive, and possibly moving to sporting events and more travel, more things that don't require as much trucking to support it. So we'll see if that pans out. And then carriers are dealing with pretty significant capacity limitations in the Northeast. Again, for all the things that we've talked about. And Northeast has generally been a difficult, whether it's in the seasonally affected in the winter, or because of the less return. Shippers can go in, deliver stuff, but they don't necessarily get as much outbound traffic as they can in other regions. So Midwest or Northeast is generally a tough region.
Yeah. I think it's all those bad New York Giants football teams out of late having an impact. But hey, I'm a Falcons fan. I can't make fun of anybody. So John, I'll start. John or Greg, anything to add in what you're seeing there in the Northeast region?
The congestion and the again, you're looking back at a driver situation, wanting to be able to go into an area and get out of an area. And I think it's one of the reasons that you've seen some of the LTL carriers actually come out and embargo parts of the Northeast. So that's an area that, we had one of our carriers call us and say, I'm sorry, we are not sending trucks into that region right now. And it's just, overall, I think it is that it's the congestion. You're starting to see product flow, and the capacity is the demand is just exceeding the capacity.
Hey, really?
So they're kind of cherry picking loads then, John. Are they saying, because they can't get a haul back out of there that they don't want to go in? And that's what Bobby, you were saying.
That's part of it. And you've seen the truckload market, because if they're not wanting to do that, now you get shippers breaking it down into smaller shipments, putting it into the LTL marketplace, and all you've done is move the dial a little bit. And so now you're getting LTL carriers that are getting 10,000 pound shipments that normally would have gone truckload, and it's causing that LTL network to start to compress and forcing them to look back and say, we just don't want this business. It's not profitable for us.
Well, and that we're seeing those same business cases made across rail as well. They're looking for smart business right now, and the leverage is on the other side of the table as opposed to where it was, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Oh, completely.
I think when you see loads go down by any percentage, and yet spend go up by over 40%, that should tell you something about the attractiveness of that market or the strain on that market.
And, for a company that normally spends 5% of our time in the spot market, I can tell you that we're spending a significant amount of time in the spot market because we're trying to make sure that we can cover loads and move product.
And that's because your contract carriers are rejecting loads, correct?
Correct.
All right. So I got to pull up this comment from Avajit, I believe. And sorry if I got that wrong. Let us know. We like to get people's names right. Via LinkedIn, nice presentations. Well, I'm an infographic addict. I love when you lay it out and you don't lose any context, right? When you take the data and the written word into the infographics. And that's part of, we got that shamelessly from the Freight Payment Index. So
right, because U.S. Bank has an amazing marketing
right. So,
for anyone who hasn't actually seen the Freight Payment Index document, it's very easy to read. It's very concise. They've taken a ton of really complex, as we just talked about, data and simplified it so that even I can understand it.
Right. So, man, we're moving mountains then. I'm kidding, Greg. But hey, I got to share this comment from Kim. And Bobby, looks like sometimes we attract business opportunities. Our friend Kim Winter says it'd be great to replicate this type of index in the GCC market. Huge trucking industry in this region. Major difference being abundant drivers in this market. Our M&A team is selling 2 regional trucking companies currently. Good stuff there from Kim. But it's laid out very nicely, and again, we're using the free for everyone version of the report here today. Okay, moving right along for the sake of time from the happening Northeast market, let's move to the Southeast market, Bobby. That's our part of the world, at least Greg and I's. Tell us what's going on in the Southeast.
Well, the Southeast was up 5.8% in shipments in the second quarter, and the Southeast Spend Index rose 9% from Q1. Again, some of the same impacts. Solid manufacturing activity growth, even though auto is somewhat soft. Manufacturing is picking up in the Southeast. We also see the home construction is boosting freight in the region, not only from new home construction, but from hurricane repair. And again, we kind of have seen that seasonal pattern, and, it seems to follow the trend of, and again, this is kind of bolstered by our economist in that you get the damage and then it takes some time for insurance to sort everything out and the weather to adjust and the marketplace to adjust to be able to mobilize to get goods down there. And then a big boom that results subsequently in that market. So that's what we're seeing in the Southeast. Spending was up 54.2% from a year earlier, and again, same drivers, driver shortage, constraining capacity. But one of the other underlying issues is the rising diesel prices, which are pushing up the rates as well, and specifically in the lower Atlantic region, we saw from the EIA that diesel prices were up 10% in the second quarter compared to the first quarter, and they had already risen quite a bit in the first quarter. So again, all of these things are kind of layering to push prices up and faster than the shipment volumes are increasing.
I think another key area that people are seeing is it's a cause and effect of what's happening on the West Coast. A lot of the major importers are bringing product through the canal up to the East Coast to try to avoid West Coast port congestion. And it's literally starting to clog Savannah. We have a huge facility in Jacksonville, and we're bringing in some of the subcontinent. We're bringing in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. We're bringing all that into the East Coast now versus we used to bring it into the West Coast to avoid West Coast congestion. The ocean carriers don't want their cargo to go inbound, so transloading, shifting to the truck marketplace, and I think you're seeing some of that on the Southeast.
Interesting.
Wait, you mean they don't want their containers going inland?
Yeah,
So you're shifting out of their containers into land-based containers.
Absolutely. The ocean carriers, they want that asset empty on their boat and going back to Asia, where they can turn around and get $18,000 to $20,000 a container to the West Coast, and they don't want to see it sitting in Memphis or Chicago or somewhere else.
That makes sense.
Opportunity
Totally makes
cost.
sense.
Yeah, it does.
Hey, Muzi.
It's interesting that, this is something we talked about the last time, Bobby, is we had already started to see people moving to the East Coast. I think the last time we were talking about companies that were moving their goods to Houston, Port of Houston, and even some of these ports that we don't always talk about. Jacksonville is a good example. Charleston and Savannah.
Gulfport.
And recently, and I'm sure talk about this when we talk about the Midwest, we've started to see it coming all the way back around to the Great Lakes as well, because now every port, as you said, John, is jammed, right? I think it was the last report that Savannah and Charleston were bragging that they weren't jammed up like Long Beach and LA and Jersey were. But now, so much freight is moving, and it's moving, and there's so many jams around the country that they're just continue to move wherever the jam is not, and it's really hard to find that spot now.
Where's Sylvia, Greg, when we need the jam queen to help us?
Yeah, that kind of jam we want.
But John's snicker there, his little laugh there, very telling. It is just, it's a very unique environment, and no port is immune, it seems like these days. So let's move. Greg kind of provided a great segue there. Let's talk about the Midwest, Bobby. What are you seeing there?
Midwest was up 2.5% in shipments over Q1, and then the spend was up almost 8% from Q1, but it was up 32% year over year. And however, the shipments were down 2% from last year.
Wow.
The Midwest is affected by auto production, and because of the supply chain issues that the auto manufacturing has been having, particularly the chip shortage, that impacted shipping quite a bit. And then home construction is softer in the Midwest than in some of the other regions. Housing starts were flat. So, again, they're still impacted. They're still rising, but they're not as aggressive about it as some of the other regions were. But then again, they're also affected by the energy costs, the diesel prices, and they were up 10% over Q1 as well. So again, a lot of pressures on the marketplace, which are, driving spending again way over shipments.
Yes, absolutely. That reminds me of the Freddie Mercury and the Queen song. Everybody's under pressure, unlike never before in many ways.
Well, I think we've heard it called an everything bubble, right? Housing, lumber, the stock market, trucking, right? All kinds of transportation, vehicles. I have a 24-year-old daughter whose 2013 car is worth more now than it was 6 months ago by thousands of dollars. And this is not a car that's it's not even worth $15,000 now. So, I think it's really interesting to see what's going on in the market and when we reach that equilibrium point and what starts to happen at that point. I can tell you, as we were talking about earlier, before we got on the air, I have reached my equilibrium point with chicken wings. I have stopped eating chicken wings because I will not pay $19 for a dozen chicken wings.
You're breaking my heart. You're
Right.
breaking my heart, man.
I know. Well, and Bobby's in upstate New York, so we know he won't stop. I think he is culturally obligated by living in upstate New York to eat chicken wings. So
I'm obligated, but I've got an invisible doctor's notice stapled in my foot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's good. Well, your doctor's not only saving your life, Bobby, he's saving you hundreds of thousands of dollars, in my opinion.
Well, there you go.
Right.
There
so
you
John, talking about Midwest, any additional comments there?
Yeah, just the driver situation. We've got facilities in Minneapolis and in Cincinnati, and just the sheer fact of the carriers that we use having a hard time putting drivers in the seat to be able to make all the deliveries. And I think just a nationwide fact, who would have ever thought that 1,400 customers got a letter from FedEx Freight saying, "We're firing you"? And I mean, literally, they sent letters to customers saying, "We can't handle your freight anymore." And that's just a tailing situation as to where this marketplace is at. And so, and if you want to move from the chicken wings, support the state of Idaho potato skins. Try them.
So
every place this is just a philosophical statement, John. Every place that serves chicken wings, right, should also serve potato skins, right, with a little bacon and cheese and maybe a little sour cream on top. I totally agree.
Greg and
lunchtime.
Yeah, right.
No kidding. All right. Well, I want to say hello to a few folks really quick. So Rhonda, Dr. Bumpenza Zimmerman, great to have you here today. Multitasking as usual, the world-class multitasker. Masawar is back with us via Pakistan on LinkedIn. Great to have you back with us, Masawar. Okay. So anything else about the Midwest before we move to the Southwest?
Yeah, I think one of the things we need to acknowledge is twofold. One, the ports are also jammed, right, as evidenced by Union Pacific ceasing transportation from of containers other than 53 foot. So of ocean containers, the 20 and 40 foot TEUs.
Yep.
From LA to Chicago, and then another carrier, railroad, ceasing also. I cannot remember their name. I just saw it.
BNSF.
Who was it?
The BNSF.
They did. It was them. Okay.
Yeah.
So they are so jammed that they have to relieve even ground transportation so that these ports can get those goods through. So to me, that feels like it will definitely carry this same issue into this quarter and through this quarter in at least the Midwest.
Yep.
Right.
Excellent commentary. But back to the heavy hitting stuff. Korai says, "Hey, switch to drumsticks, more meat and cheaper." We're getting chicken advice right here on Supply Chain Now.
Well, okay. I mean, as long as we're going there, boneless wings, which are not chicken tenders, they're chicken nuggets, right? That has become quite the craze because they are roughly a third of the price of wings. Not nearly as satisfying, Bobby Holland. So
that's right.
You're not missing anything, let me tell you.
There you go.
All right. So let's move to the, let's see here. I think we're on the Southwest now. Is that correct? Or we just covered we just covered Southwest.
Yeah, you're the one running the agenda. You tell us.
I'm going ahead of us. So, Bobby, I think we were just talking about the Southwest, so we're moving to the West, according to my notes. Is that right?
No, I thought we just did the Midwest.
Midwest. Okay, that's right. I gave y'all one last point to make on the Midwest.
Too many West.
That is right. Too many West. So when it comes to the Southwest, Bobby, with it's the fourth of these 5 different regions, what are we seeing there?
The shipment index was up 6.5%, and the regional spend index was up almost 10% from Q1. According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, trade with Mexico was up almost 85% from a year earlier. So, and that, when in the middle of the pandemic, that was one of the things that we reported was that, the truck trade going across the border was really impacting the Southwest. And it sounds like that's turned around from a year earlier, 85% according to Bureau of Transportation Statistics. Spend is outpacing yet again shipments, again during the higher freight rates, increased fuel surcharges as diesel prices rose, and then the shipment volumes have increased as well. So all of those are still putting pressure. As they say, it's a nice problem to have, but it's still a problem.
Yes, perfect
well
storm.
Said.
The everything bubble, as Greg had mentioned. And by the way, I got to give credit where it's credit due, and thank you, Peter Bollet. That was Donald Bourne giving us drumstick advice there. So thank you very much. But speaking of the Southwest, and speaking of what Bobby just shared, or some of the things you're seeing, John, what else are you seeing there?
We have a facility in Avondale, Arizona, Phoenix area, and we've been probably less impacted there than other regions, but I think I'll save my comments for the next one you're going to go to, because it's definitely a number one on our list.
Love that. And Greg?
I think this is the first time we've said this, Bobby, but I think the issues that we're seeing in the Southwest are very similar to what we're seeing in the other parts of the country, saving the fact that cross-border transportation is at nearly twice the level it was before. So that's a shocker. I got to say, I mean, I think that our audience probably understands why I was so shocked by the numbers in this thing, because Bobby, I think we saw something like this coming. I'm not sure the order of magnitude in which it has hit is, I know you couldn't have done a forward-looking statement anyway, but I don't think the order of magnitude in which it has hit was something we were expecting at all.
I
think when the main issue with capacity was mainly the driver shortage, that was one thing. The market was rapidly working to deal with that as everything emerged from the pandemic. But then when you throw the energy prices into that rising dramatically, and then when you throw in the chip shortage, which not only has affected industries, but it's also affected the ability to actually get new trucks.
Right.
And then if you got the new trucks, could you put drivers in them? There's other things that were not highly indicated at that point earlier in the pandemic that would indicate that there would be this different kind of pressure on capacity. Because even if you got all the truck drivers, you may not have enough trucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's then let's move out to John's maybe favorite category next, the fifth.
Maybe not favorite, but most impactful.
We're excited to get these insights here. Let's talk about what's going on out west, Bobby.
West Regional Shipments Index was up 7.1%, and the spend index was up almost 14%, but it was up over 51% from a year earlier. This region was buoyed up by solid retail sales, robust home construction, and strong port shipments, which, as we talked about in the last quarter's index, was due to depleted retail inventories. And so we see retailers are scrambling to get more goods from overseas, and it's generating the downstream impact is to generate a lot of truck port activity, as John had talked about earlier as well. And then there's also strong freight in the West associated with housing activity, as home construction was up almost 50% from a year earlier, which was surprising, especially given high lumber prices and dampening building
flooding out of California. I mean, was this building going on in states other than California?
Building?
The home building.
I think the Southeast has got a lot of stuff. Southeast has a lot going on as well in the home building. Right?
Definitely. I drove across the gauntlet last weekend as Greg and I reconnected. We're on opposite sides of the Metro Atlanta area, and I can't tell you. I didn't have enough fingers and toes to count the massive condo and apartment communities and the kind of pre-manufactured home communities. Construction is everywhere, Greg. And then the other thing we noticed passing by all these empty car lots is man, inventory all-time lows. It's remarkable to see even the super dealerships, the mega dealerships, churning out all that volume, not have nearly as much to sell. But I digress. All right, so Bobby was touched on some things there about what the data is showing across the West. John, what else?
No, I mean, the West is leading to several of the problems that we're seeing in the Midwest, the Southeast, and the other regions because of the sheer amount of cargo that comes through Port of Long Beach, LA, and the Northwest Seaport Alliance. And the premium on being able to transload your product and put it into a truck or intermodal and move it is very high right now. And one of the challenges that everybody's starting to see is equipment, because we have less labor that we could put into a warehouse. It's taking us longer to unload containers. It's taking us longer to unload trailers, which shrinks that trailer pool out there. And the carriers are absolutely coming out and saying, not only is your base rate going up, but we're going to shorten the detention time. We're going to increase the costs for doing that. And all of those are starting to see this freight index, the cost of freight from the West to the East, going up significantly. And I know that Bobby cannot give a forward statement, but if you're looking toward Q4 and peak season, it's only going to get worse. Capacity is going to continue to be constrained, and the volume moving is only going to continue to go up. And I think we're going to see it across all modes of domestic transportation.
Yep, a great point. Greg, I want to pass it back over to you for the sake of time. I know we want to kind of talk about some of our biggest takeaways here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I would love to hear, John, what you guys, what are the biggest issues you all are seeing? I mean, you had mentioned people are staying home in droves because they're being paid by the government to do so. And I hadn't thought about the possibility that is enough money to provide a driver's salary. But if you aren't also extracting the cost of driving, then it is very, very close to what a driver could make by actually doing the work, right? So, I mean, do you feel like that's having as big an impact as anything? Because that's not uncommon.
No, we see it in the warehouse level. In 8 distribution centers across the United States, we have raised the wage of an entry-level person and our core people to come to work in the warehouses. Those jobs are very difficult to find, and if we're not at full staff, then we can't unload and load at full capabilities, and that's the core business. So, and I think if you're a shipper, I think not only do you have to look at the budget aspects, but you have to work really hard to make sure you're an attractive customer to the freight industry.
Right.
You need to be a good steward of their equipment and their drivers, and you need to pay your bills on time. And if you can do all 3 of those things, you might be able to have a shot.
So you're saying there's a chance, John?
There's a chance.
Is there anything else that jumps out at you as a big takeaway? Look, you're facing this every single day with as many facilities as you have offshore and as much as you have to move on the ground in the States. What else are you seeing that's just stands out?
I think the key focus is America's trying to rebalance its inventory. And, we've come through the pandemic where we burnt through lots of inventory. And, now all of a sudden everybody's rushing to restock inventory so that it can be on the shelf. And I think everybody's holding their breath to see what's the .com market going to be? What's the home delivery, the internet retail business? Are people going to stay home and shop, or are they going to go out and start hitting the stores again? And all those things, I think, have us sitting on the edge of the seat to see what it's going to do to the network.
Bobby, what jumps out at you? I mean, you are looking at this from deep inside, so I'm really curious what takeaways this brings to your mind.
I think the thing that's most fascinating to me is, we look at the data, we see the transactions being processed. We can derive certain information from what we see in that data, but it's always fascinating to me all of the decisions, because even if you talk to we obviously can't talk to every single customer and find out at a detailed level what they're all going through. That's why I find this fascinating. But to just see all of the decisions that are being made and trying to adjust to, the changes in the marketplace and the pressures in the marketplace, and then seeing, almost like how does that shake out in the next quarter. That's one of the fascinating aspects of this job, is just seeing, what guys like John and his company have to do in order to stay on top of their business. And those decisions change, at least quarterly. Can change quarterly because the marketplace is changing that rapidly in some ways as we dig out. So I think that's one of the fascinating things, is just seeing all of those decisions and how they shake out, and then it may reverse the next quarter or 2 quarters down, and then you've got to make different decisions, and then where does that go, and then just trying to stay half a step ahead of everything. It's one of the cool things about this job.
Can I share some points, Scott? I would love to hear from you too. I mean, you always facilitate these things, but you're as knowledgeable about supply chain or more, particularly as regards manufacturing, than most of us. So I want to understand what you're seeing and what all of this says to you.
Gosh, put someone on the spot. I think a couple of things. This driver supply issue has persisted and will continue to persist. Greg, we've talked ad nauseum with a wide variety of folks about it. But it's kind of like the weather. We talk about it, but no one ever does anything about it. Between technology, I think between compensation changes, I think in the nature of maybe having the profession evolve a bit and finding ways to innovate that. But most importantly, I got to take this opportunity to talk about how we treat our drivers. And I think John mentioned that. We've seen countless leaders talk about it. We got to. They are incredible resources that drive the backbone, no pun intended, of global supply chain, certainly the supply chain across the country. So never miss an opportunity to kind of kick the tires on that. But, add in this perfect storm that the last couple of years has been, the spend index, highest on record. I mean, that's just one more element that business leaders and organization leaders and supply chain leaders have to kind of feel their way through. And undoubtedly, as Bobby and John and you are all speaking, the ripple effects are massive down to the very, each port, each mile driven, each facility. So anyway, I think, Greg, I appreciate that question. But to wrap here, because I want to make sure folks, there's so many other key takeaways we could get to as we dissect this freight payment index. But here at almost the top of the hour, I want to make sure we have Bobby tell us how can folks sign up for this massive quarterly report. Of course, they can find the live stream breakdown here on Supply Chain Now each quarter. But Bobby, how can folks sign up for all this information?
If you go to the link at freight.usbank.com, there's a landing page that will explain about the freight payment index and offer you the ability to subscribe to it, and you'll receive it in your email inbox quarterly.
It's just that easy. A few things, everything should work that easy. But Bobby, I really enjoy your breakdown each quarter. I love the folks you bring with you. John Janson. John, you're a great commentary to kind of marry with the data. And of course, Greg, I love your insights and key takeaways and making it fun and colorful. Who would have thunk that freight can be as fun and colorful as it has been over the last hour? John, let's make sure folks know how to connect with you and the SanMar team. It's doing a bunch of great work. How can folks connect with you?
Sure. LinkedIn is probably the best avenue. If you just go to LinkedIn and put in John Janson or put in SanMar, it should come up, and would welcome the chance to connect with people in the industry. And from your freight index report, you mentioned earlier how easy it is to read. It is in a form that you could literally forward to a C-level executive and not have to try to dummy it down. It's pretty straightforward from a good aspect of what's going on in the industry.
It's really true. That's a really good point. It's not jargony. It's not super detailed. It is high enough level for someone to look at it and be as shocked as I was, or to realize that some sort of action is required, right? And that's just the quarterly one. I mean, if you want really timely information, if you think about some of these custom offerings or the BI tool that US Bank has, I mean, you can really be on top of things.
Yep,
correct.
Agreed.
Correct. Thank you.
So, and you don't have to be a freight technician or a freight analyst. I mean, it does a great job level setting because we're all impacted by freight regardless of what you do. Freight.usbank.com. I think the link's also in the comments. But Bobby, hey, same question for you. How can folks connect with Bobby Holland?
Again, LinkedIn as well for me, Bobby Holland at US Bank, and you'll be able to find me.
Wonderful.
Who is not already connected with Bobby?
Hey, if you're not, you're missing out. You're missing out. So huge thanks. Bobby Holland, Director, Freight Data Solutions with US Bank. Really appreciate your quarterly updates and your kindred spirits here. And John Janson, great to meet you. We really enjoyed
It's nice to meet you, John.
And chatting with you.
Thank you.
I took a lot of notes.
Oh, Bobby got 17 pages of notes. Scott.
That is right.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I should add, John Janson, Senior Director, Global Logistics with SanMar. So big thanks, John and Bobby. We'll see you both very soon.
All right.
Thank you very much.
The only time I want to hear somebody say "Go Broncos" is when they're talking about Boise State.
So,
by the way,
for John Ears, who may be still be in the green room, Greg's a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, so naturally their rivalry with the Denver Broncos. But we're all big Boise State fans around here. Okay, so Greg, man, what a great conversation. That's been one of my favorite ones thus far. Very practical takeaways. I got to go.
That was
back.
as good as the wrestling discussion.
That was good. That was a good one. I got to go back to something that you were talking about your daughter's car that's worth so much. Peter's talking about doubling his money on his 2012 convertible Mustang.
No, we just got the roof working. Peter, well, wait a minute. He's in Quebec, so summer is almost over.
That is right.
Right? We're 90 degrees. He's looking at snow showers in like a couple weeks.
That is right. And I also I want to add, hey Rhonda, I appreciate this comment. This is something that we're passionate about. In fact, Greg, I don't think I've shared this with you yet. With our friend Ward Richmond, we're actually setting up a series of interviews with truck drivers and to getting their perspective and experiences firsthand. I think that's something that is long overdue, and
yes,
it's important.
Finally, somebody who swears more than I do on this show.
Maybe so. I don't know. You're usually very well behaved.
I am.
Tell you just tell it like it is, which we love and we need more of. Okay, so Greg, great conversation here today. We're a couple minutes over, but I want to grab before I sign off your favorite element of today's conversation as we've been spending the last hour with Bobby Holland with US Bank and John Janson with SanMar. What was your favorite, most important aspect of the discussion?
Well, John only got to brush past it, but it was very striking, and it enunciated yet again the fact that this is all very circular. The spending that is causing an everything bubble, the travel, which has gotten the term revenge travel, the housing boom, and other things that consumers are spending money on, and the fact that people are staying away from work in droves, all driven by government subsidy, right? If we want to get some stability into this economy, we have to start pulling that government subsidy back so people are motivated to get to work. They start spending like it's their own money, because it will be their own money. I mean, in truth, it is their own money. And get some stability back in the marketplace, because this will continue to haunt us as long as we pay people to stay away from work and pay them as much or more than they were making before, so that they make all of these discretionary spends that I admit have boosted the economy when it needed it. But I think the time is well past now. And there are plenty of open jobs out there, not just in the trucking industry, but in every industry. And those are the supply chain industries. Those are the retail, the restaurant, the hospitality industry. So many industries out there that need people to work. And I think, hearing both the impact on John's company of transportation because of that, but also on their own ability to produce and distribute and deliver their own goods, really drives that point home. We got to get back to work.
Yeah, agreed. We got to keep our finger on the pulse of diesel fuel prices as well. There's no shortage of observations and a lot of pain at the pump across the country. And, of course, the diesel fuel price is a big part of the uplift and spend. I want to, John Janson, who was just with us, I love this. We need to support the driver industry. Reach out to him if you want to be a shipper of choice. That's the conversations I'm talking about. I'd love to, maybe we'll have to have John on a subsequent episode and dive in deep on just how to really become a shipper of choice and change a culture that is for way too long has not changed around these brave professionals moving the industry forward. Kim, 116 degrees Fahrenheit.
He must be in a different part of the UAE.
Yeah, must have been.
He's in Dubai, but
yes,
was that? Yeah,
we'll have to do our double checking. But great to have you, Kim and Peter and Rhonda and everyone that joined us here today. Big thanks to Bobby Holland, of course, with U.S. Bank, and John Janson with SanMar. Folks, come out and join us for next quarters. It'll be just around the corner. We have Bobby back with a fellow supply chain executive practitioner diving into the massive report resource that is the Freight Payment Index. Sign up for it at freight.usbank.com. And most importantly, Greg, if you do anything at all, hey, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And on that note, we'll see you next time right here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.